This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Our underground network is standing by at the drop zone to distribute.
The transmission is being jammed. Looks like the Empire came out to welcome us.
Attention, Rebel Convoy. This system is under Imperial control. Stand down or be destroyed.
What a surprise. Star Wars Sabers and Scoundrels.
Starships.
Carabast.
Yeah.
Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. The Scoundrels Special Edition.
Greetings, Scoundrels. We're back, and welcome to this Scoundrel Special Edition. I'm Dennis, and I have Darth Taxus and Jay Krebs with me. If you are new to the show, or you weren't listening during Season 3 of Rebels, our Scoundrel Special Editions are our off-week shows covering recent episodes of Rebels or other content. It is a scaled-down version of the regular show without most of the segments you might be familiar with. So, Taxus, sound the spoiler alert because this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion. Jay, if you would read the summary for The Occupation.
It would be my pleasure. After receiving a partial transmission from Ryder on Lothal, Mon Mothma and the Rebellion become increasingly worried about the Empire's production of a new TIE Defender model. Ezra and the crew of the Ghost volunteer to return to Lothal for good. The team adopts disguises and barter the smuggling services of Vizago in exchange for puffer pigs. Once on Lothal, they discover the Empire has depleted the planet's resources and wrecked its environment. Their cover is eventually blown, and they are forced to flee through smuggling tunnels with the Empire in pursuit. Finally, they notice Phoenix symbols left by Ryder and follow them to their escape. Once reunited with Ryder, they begin making plans to learn about the new TIE Defender.
So that's the summary. Real quick, in about 30 seconds or so, what did you each think of this episode? Jay?
Well, it was great seeing Vizago again, the smuggler. He's so much fun, and those little puffer pigs, and the way that they use them as their little cover for getting off of the ship to begin with. And, you know, of course, we've got a lot of throwback to some things that had happened on Lothal, and this is where Ezra wanted to be. But obviously, when he gets back there, it's not what he expected. So, you know, it kind of comes full circle for him in a way, but not in a very good way.
How about you, Taxus?
Well, it's funny you said full circle because I was just thinking that. I was like, this episode is kind of the completion of, you know, where they started out from. It's just a small group, and it's, I don't know, I guess you could say sort of an offshoot of all politics is local, you know, all rebellions is local. There's a lot of, you know, callbacks to the first season. There's a lot of, oh, hey, you know, this happened, remember this? And that's fine, because I really was hoping, you know, I don't know, I guess we're kind of spoiled by the Clone Wars with, you know, so many episodes and over so many years that I was hoping to find out, you know, see more of Vizago. But we didn't see him. We haven't seen anything of him, right? If I'm correct, since season 1. You know?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, season 1 or season 2. I can't remember where they left off with him. But you're right.
Yeah, and the same with the Academy string. I mean, you know, we had, I remember, Dennis, you told me about the story about Zare. But... you know, it would have been nice. I mean, there's probably people that haven't read all the extraneous material, and so they're probably thinking, oh, well, whatever happened to him, you know? Sure. So it was kind of nice seeing a little bit of the callback to all that.
Yeah. Well, with the show leaving Lothal, as they moved on to Chopper Base and they were dealing with Thrawn last season, characters like Vizago, who are based off of Lothal, were just going to get kind of lost and put to the wayside there. But I agree. It was good to get back to some of these older characters. So let's talk a bit about this infiltration of Lothal again. They're all wearing disguises, which, come on, some of those were hilarious. Zeb looked absolutely ridiculous. I thought Kanan had quite a odd looking costume as well. I thought Sabine and Hera looked the most normal of the crew.
Yeah.
And then I guess Chopper was Chopper, so whatever.
Right.
But But they get to Lothal, and it is absolutely wrecked. But then they kind of split up. They got to acquire transportation, and they got to get some intel. I really like the way this episode flowed with those operational elements. What did you all think about that?
Yeah, I did like the disguises thing. I did think that Zeb kind of looked like a really tall version of something from The Wizard of Oz, but
good one.
Yeah, but at any rate, of course, it was a really sweet scene also to see when the near kiss happened, of course, between Hera and Kanan, and but yeah, I thought that Hera just looked beautiful actually in her little disguise, and seeing Sabine with her darker hair again, disguising herself that way.
That's a good point. Cool. With Sabine in her new outfit, Hera in that disguise, because Hera's always in a flight suit.
Right.
Yeah, so seeing her in something else is a nice change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought Ezra was also a little bit on the ridiculous side with his costume, but they built something. Yeah, it's like something other than rebel soldiers wandering around on Lothal.
Yeah, he's wearing basically the flying nun habit.
Yeah,
that's right.
but no, I thought the change in hair color with Sabine, is that kind of like just a little indicative of her embracing her heritage now?
Oh, I just assumed it was part of the disguise.
Probably.
It was essentially black.
Yeah.
In this episode, and then it changes colors again for the next one.
Oh, okay.
They just had to do something to look like somebody other than who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work for that long. They got made in this episode by the Empire. And then there was also that bit of bad news that old Joe, the guy that owned the bar, was arrested and executed for treason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a shocker, to be honest with you. But again, they're tying up loose ends kind of with all this thing. And speaking of which, okay, so I guess I was a little confused by the story because they're sneaking around the alleys and everything, and they're hearing stormtroopers accost citizens and saying, hey, you're out past curfew, let me see some identification. Yet nobody really bats an eye to the fact that two people walk into a bar, which is kind of the start of
they stopped Chopper. One of the troopers said, we saw two citizens over here. Did you see where they went? And that's when they head back into the bar.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, but if there was curfew, I don't know. I guess I was just a little confused by that story element, Well,
also don't forget, when they were landing on Lothal, Vizago's ship got scanned, and they detected all the unregistered life forms, which was them, and they contacted the ISB and told them to be on the lookout, and that's when they triggered the puffer pigs to... because of Zeb's ugly face that sets them off, and that's when they ran off the ship. So I don't know. I think part of it was the Empire was trying to be a little discreet with tracking down the rebels there, which was not, hey, there's rebels around. It's like we saw some citizens that were doing something questionable. Have you seen anybody? But so this episode moves into high action with the second half. Once the rebels get made, they flee into those smuggling tunnels, and then the probe droids get released after them. I was kind of pleased to see that these weren't the probe droids from The Empire Strikes Back that self-destruct, because that could have gone really badly for them.
Yeah, the whole scene kind of reminded me of kind of a first-person shooter. I mean, was this in Dark Forces where you're kind of going through tight, confined areas and you hear that probe droid noise going around? Right. Do you remember that, Dennis?
Yeah, that game from what, 20 years ago?
Yeah. So it made me wonder if they were kind of like doing an homage to that a little bit, with the whole thing.
Really hadn't considered that, but it was good to see all of them working as a team again. We haven't had that this season. They keep splitting up to do their missions, but although they kept dividing up, they kept ending up back together. And then as they got to the end of the line in those smugglers' tunnels, it was Kanan and Ezra with their lightsabers deflecting the stormtroopers' bolts back at them, and Sabine and Hera firing back with Zeb providing some support, and even Chopper was there. I mean, they were all there in one place acting as a team again. So many of these stories have been some subgroup of the larger whole doing something.
Well, and you're right, because even Chopper's the one that recognized the rebel symbol as possibly, it's almost like the ancient Christians in Rome using the fish symbol.
And you notice that didn't matter that he noticed it. No one listened to him. At all.
Of course,
they all figured it out for themselves later after they've been running around for a while. Because what was the kid's name that recognized them? He was leading through the tunnels and he had no idea where he was going. So talk about the least effective contact ever.
Right. Yeah, you'd think he would know his surrounding, his terrain, especially if he's working for a insurgent group. Right.
So this episode ends with they do make it to the top of that ladder at the end of the tunnel after they find that Phoenix logo, and there's a brief moment of suspense because it starts to open and they're not sure if the Empire is going to be waiting for them or not. But it's Ryder, and he's got his own U-wing there, which is missing 2 engines and a hyperdrive.
Yeah.
I got the impression from Rogue One that these ships were in far more limited supply, and they were something that the Rebellion had kind of
for special purpose. Yeah.
Right. So I'm just curious what the story is behind Ryder's U-wing.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was wondering that too, especially like I remember looking at it and going, wait a minute, does that only have 2 engines? And then I looked up the image of the regular U-wing. So I had 4, and I'm like, okay. And then I was thinking, okay, Saw's got one of these, Ryder's got one of these. I mean, is there a club? Like, is this like Mary Kay, where, hey, congratulations, you've rebelled this much, and so we're going to give you the U-wing.
It's Oprah's show. You get a wing, U-wing, and you get a U-wing.
You get a
Check
U-wing.
under your chair. Everyone gets a U-wing.
Whoa, there's a U-wing under my chair.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and conclude this episode then. Basically, they've escaped from the Empire. They've reunited with Ryder. They give him the bad news that the rebels aren't coming, but they're going to start looking into the TIE Defenders anyway, and then try and figure out how to get that intel to the rest of the rebellion. And with that, it's time to switch over to the second episode, which is Flight of the Defender. Jay, if you would do the honors and read the summary of that episode for us.
I will indeed. Sabine, Ezra, Zeb, and Ryder begin surveillance on the airfield where the new TIE Defender is to be tested. However, Sabine isn't satisfied with merely observing the new TIE and wants the flight data recorder. So she and Ezra infiltrate the airfield. While Sabine attempts to remove the recorder, Admiral Thrawn and Governor Price arrive. Ezra is distracted by the appearance of a loth-wolf, which allows an Imperial pilot to get the drop on him and results in the distraction Sabine needs. The plan changes yet again as Sabine and Ezra take off in the new prototype TIE Defender. Thrawn sends TIE interceptors in pursuit, but they are no match for the Defender, even with an average pilot such as Ezra at the controls. Before they can escape, though, Price activates the kill switch and they crash land. Ezra and Sabine stash the hyperdrive from the Defender because they will be able to use it on Ryder's U-wing later, good thing, and then begin evading the Empire. Just when the Empire is closing in, the loth-wolf arrives, puts Sabine to sleep, and then carries Ezra and Sabine to safety. However, the loth-wolf vanishes before Ezra and Sabine are reunited with the rest of the rebels, but only after muttering the word Dume.
Okay, so let's spend a brief moment talking about the whole pursuit with the TIE Defenders, because then let's get into what everyone's buzzing about, which is the wolf. Okay, I loved the action sequence from start to finish with the TIE Defender. From Sabine and Ezra infiltrating the airfield till they're taking off with it, and the Top Gun maneuver where Ezra hits the brakes and the interceptors go flying by.
Which was kind of like Vader a little bit too.
Yeah, it's still
from season 2, you know, when he,
but still the whole Top Gun maneuvers. Right. I called that one Top Gun too. But anyway, that was some of the best action I think Rebels has had. And sustained action, I should say. The duel between Vader and Ahsoka and Vader and Kanan and Ezra, were some other great examples. But just from the sneaking into the airbase, Ezra fighting off all those stormtroopers, stumbling between crates and hiding and poking up and taking shots at people, to the leaving with that TIE Defender. Just wow, they did an incredible job there.
Yeah, something about that really stuck out to me. Ezra's jumping around, and he's like, gesticulating, doing all the Jedi stuff. And there's one point where he kind of slides across some crate, and lands, kind of in front of full view of Thrawn and Price and Baron von Helfentyzen, or whatever his name is. And, Thrawn goes, yeah, interesting. Or something, or fascinating, or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, why was that interesting? Because he says hi to you? Or are you analyzing the fact that he's not killing anyone?
Well, it's interesting because he's there. Lothal is under complete Imperial blockade, and they're intercepting ships and scanning ships, and he did not give any indication that he expected them to be there. Okay. Now that you brought Thrawn up, what did everybody think about this? Wasn't the most impressive deductive reasoning that he's ever exhibited, but he did employ those powers over the course of this episode. Jay,
I think that they're just plugging him in to keep him at the forefront of everyone's mind. I mean, I don't know that of course he's serving a purpose in the storyline. There's no denying that. But I think it's just more, oh, remember Thrawn? Here he is, at this point, and it's building up to something more. So that was just the feeling that I got.
Well,
Taxus.
I think the TIE Defender project was kind of his pet project, or at least they kind of built it up to be like that. So I guess it would make sense for him to be there. Plus, he does know that there's a strong Jedi connection to Lothal, and Thrawn's always playing a long game. You know what I mean? Is there a reason why there's intensified pressure on Lothal? Yes, there is, because he knows that this particular group of rebels who are harboring 2 Jedi have strong feelings about this planet, right? And that's why they sent an attack force to try to, break through a blockade and failed, right? So, I don't know.
Well, okay, let me interrupt you for a second here. I think Thrawn is being looked at as someone who's just in the Imperial Navy. I think he's assigned to Lothal. Yeah. I think he's supposed to be there. He's the TIE Defender project falls under his command. He's there to witness the test of this prototype, and after he sees how well an average pilot like Ezra does, taking out all those interceptors with little problem, he said, he makes that remark. An average pilot with this ship did this well. Yeah. Our regular pilot, our pilots are going to do really massacre the rebels with this thing. So again, he's. I think you kind of have to take a broader view of what Thrawn's role is right now. It's not just about tracking down Hera, Kanan, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper. He is developing the what's going on around Lothal. Governor Price asked for him to be there, and so he's been assigned to this sector. So that's the way I look at it. Yeah. The more peculiar thing for me when it came to Thrawn was when Sabine was flying around that Defender shooting up the airfield, he pulled out his pistol and just started shooting back.
Well, do you know what that's kind of an homage to?
What?
Have you ever seen the 1970s movie with George C. Scott, Patton?
No.
Their Patton, of course, was a pretty crazy general, and there's reports of him standing in the way of the German Luftwaffe as they're firing straight down a path. He's pulling out his pearl-handled Colt 45 and just steadily shooting straight at the ships while they're shooting back at him, or the airplanes.
Jay, did you notice how smoothly that name of that gun rolled off of Taxus's tongue? Jay, what did you think about this?
Well, I'm blown away by this whole patent thing here that you just pulled that right out of there. But
and they're not pearl handled; they were ivory. But
well, I guess for the most part, I've said as far as Thrawn goes in this episode what I wanted to say, but I have to say. And maybe this is getting off topic, but where is the Force? Ezra has not used the Force for anything. He could have used it on the satellite dish.
Yes.
They dragged that stinking hyperdrive across the desert. Why didn't he just use the Force to help them with it? I don't understand why it's not there.
Well, okay, that's an interesting point. I agree. He probably could have used some Force levitation there, but I think the Force is present in this episode is the fact that he's the only one that saw the white loth-cat. He's got some connection to this critter with the Force, and again, he was the only one that the loth-wolf would reveal himself to. No one else saw it. But so let's get into that part of this episode. Okay. Well, I'll make one last comment about Thrawn. I really like that analogy that you drew, or that similarity you saw there, Taxus. What bugs me about it is Patton is an American war hero. Thrawn is part of the Empire.
True.
So why they chose to make the homage with him befuddles me. But anyway,
it might have just been the unique situation of the scenery. You know what I mean? I think that might have been it.
I guess. But okay, so Thrawn's a brave man shooting up the TIE Defender. So let's talk about the loth-cat and the loth-wolf. Do either of you? I don't. Do either of you have any theories as to what the cat and the wolf are about? And I will make this one point. When the loth-wolf finishes talking to Ezra, at the end of the episode, when the wolf gets Ezra back to the rest of the rebels, before he departs, he mentions that word Dume. When I was watching Rebels Recon, they had closed captioning on the video, and Dume was spelled D-U-M-E.
Yeah.
If that's not familiar to you, that's Kanan's real last name.
Yeah, Caleb Dume.
He's Caleb Dume. So is that what that means? Or are we talking about something? I mean, that seems like it's too much to be a coincidence. So what do y'all think is going on here with this wolf?
Oh, there's so much. When I was watching this, it was just the thoughts were just swirling, in my head. And I thought that the wolf said Doom, D-O-O-M, as well. And
I think there's a purpose to that name being similar,
sure.
a homonym, right?
Sure. Well, yeah, absolutely. But, with the loth-cat and the loth-wolf both being white, and, you think about anything that's symbolic in the color, it's something that is, it's very spiritual in nature. So, for both of those to be represented, and of course, I'm going to go here, but of course, Ahsoka's lightsabers were also white. So could it be that they are sort of Force neutral and pure in the Force? And so that's why they're appearing to Ezra in that way, because there's obviously a lot of different loth-cats, but he said that the loth-wolf, no one has seen one in over 100 years.
Right. So
obviously it's coming back for a reason, but we just don't know exactly what just yet.
Yeah, I wonder what the 100 years purpose is. And just, I'm looking at a picture. Ooh, look at me. I'm looking at a picture. I'm looking at a picture of the wolf on my phone, on my iPhone. Ooh, touch me twice. And I don't know. I'm just trying to look at any of the markings, including the nose and the ridges over the eyebrows. There's these, you know what I'm saying? There's these ridges that are kind of segmented going up, and then the eye color. And I'm just, I'm wondering if there's anything to that. I'm trying to think of, why would this being, creature, who knows, specifically single out Kanan, when Ezra asks him why?
That's a good question. A couple other observations about the wolf. One, Jay, you brought up the white color. You had the white loth-cat, we have the white wolf. I think in a preview for one of the next episodes, or some of the behind the scenes type gallery stuff, we've seen some gray loth-wolves as well, but this particular one is white. The carnivores, the owls, those are also generally white in color, and they're all associated with the sister from the Mortis arc. So I like this idea of neutrality. I think maybe perhaps it might be something that is force unaligned, maybe that not a Jedi, but still some sort of a light side leaning creature. Second, I'm trying to think of some sort of a natural connection. Ezra and Kanan are force sensitive. They're trained to be Jedi, but particularly Ezra identifies very strongly with Lothal. That's where he's from. That's where his parents were abducted. He's been grousing about the fact that he's been wanting to get back to Lothal, but they haven't been able to do so. He kind of sees himself much in the same way in previous seasons as where he's the defender of all of his friends, and he was trying to do whatever it took to protect the crew of the Ghost. Now he's kind of transferred that over to Lothal.
Flight of the Defender.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm just thinking it's like the TIE Defender is like in the name, but you just pointed out it's like, what if Ezra's the defender of Lothal? Okay,
so you stole my thunder. But,
sorry. Man, you just totally blew my mind with that. I'm sorry.
It's all right. But the point is that, as a force of nature, is the wolf finding, someone who represents natural fall, which has been devastated by the Empire as they've created these defenders. Is he reaching out to Ezra, and was that communication about Dume something about you need to bring Kanan in on what's going on here?
Maybe. Well, here's the thing. I mean, if you remember way back, I think it was one of the very first seasons when they were in one of the caves. And this was also brought back up in the season 4 trailer too, when you see the loth-wolf on the cave and, Ezra says, something like loth-wolf, loth-cat, run, pick a path and all is done.
Yeah.
But, there's some mythology there.
Mm-hmm.
What could it have been that the Jedi were kind of worshiping these wolves as something that were force sensitive, maybe, and again, in the middle, such as the Bendu? Because I know that Dave Filoni had hinted about something with the wolf. Was it at San Diego Comic-Con, perhaps? And you know what I mean? That there was some sort of a link that, because, and again, with the white being in the middle and sort of a middle ground, that it's not good, it's not bad, it's just in the middle, kind of like the Bendu. So this is Ezra's Bendu, whereas Kanan had the Bendu, Ezra has the loth-wolf.
Yeah, I like that. I think to me, it's the there's this whole in the middle thing. I think is also balance. I think the white is the color of balance.
Yes,
is what I'm starting to come to understanding. Dave Filoni also had that image out on Twitter some months ago, where he was trying to quell the confusion, and he had a picture of Ahsoka with an owl over one shoulder, and she's petting the wolf, and she had that arrow. He had that arrow pointing to
not the wolf,
because there was all including me. Spotted theories that possibly Ahsoka was the reincarnation of the wolf. But I don't know. But again, the wolf put Sabine to sleep, walked right up behind her and said, sleep. And she passed out.
Yeah.
And then, I love the evasion while they had all those transports with their searchlights on in the dark. And the wolf was evading all that with Ezra and Sabine on its back. And then when it got to where the rest of the rebels were, Ezra's like, I don't understand why is this? And he says Dume. So it's a very tantalizing mystery, and I hope this season ends with an answer.
Yeah. So
that we're not left with all these hanging strands of stories. What happened to Ahsoka? What's with the wolf? What's with the white loth-cat? If we get some answers, but not all answers, great. But I'd like to have when this is all said and done, I'd like to have more of an answer on what's going on.
Right. Instead of 20 years later, somebody saying, yeah, I had conversations with Filoni and his vision for the wolf was really like this. So we're trying to bring this into fruition, Right. It's funny.
Maybe it's Yoda.
Okay. So Dume. Okay. So I'm thinking to myself, all right. So whose lives has Kanan touched? You know what I mean? Like, is there something, maybe Master Balaba, or
Balaba?
Thank you very much.
Master.
Yeah, his master. Anybody else? I'm like thinking of the markings. I'm trying to find anything that's a similarity. And when you mentioned the Bendu, I looked up the Bendu. And it's interesting because if you look at the color scheme of the Bendu, his eyes are like the color of the loth-wolf, but his beard, for, I guess, his beard is like the color of the loth-wolf's eyes. I don't know if that's a coincidence. I'm just throwing that out there, because I don't know. I'm at a loss at all this stuff. I don't know anything what's going on. Dogs and cats living together, literally.
It's chaos.
It is.
Right.
It's forced chaos.
Well, we need to start winding this down. As we pointed out the last time we did one of these Scoundrel special editions, last season we got into the habit of grading the episodes.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and go around the table with final thoughts and a grade? You can grade them jointly or separately. It's up to you. Taxus, take it away.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna. I guess I'm gonna join them together or grade them together because, I think there's a reason why they're showing these in twos. To be honest with you, and I'm intrigued. I'm sorry. I have to understand what's going on, and I am really, 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 really deep into it. So I'm going to give these two a 97 together.
Okay. Jay, final thoughts and a grade?
Wow, 97 is a high A. It's only 3% from perfection. I can't go that high.
Math is power.
Math is power. I definitely like the second part better than the first. I do think that the first part definitely had a lot of really great tiebacks, of course. And like I said, bringing things back full circle. But I really, really liked the mythology. And I'm just one for mythology and psychology anyway, in Flight of the Defender. So that was, if I had to go half and half, Flight of the Defender definitely gets the nod for me. Overall, as a whole episode, I would give it a strong B+. Not quite an A for me. Yeah, I'd give it, on our grading scale at school, a 91 would be a B+, 92 would be an A. So I'm going to go 91.
Wow, that's a harsh scale. Okay.
Yeah. You're poor students.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Just saying.
Well, for me, first off, this has been an incredible season of Rebels so far. I like that we had a great dose of Mandalorians in the first two episodes. We turned to Saw and that whole philosophical dispute in the second two episodes with the continuing theme of what is ethically proper in war, what's ethically appropriate, I should say. And then these two episodes, you get back to getting back to the roots of Lothal, the return to where everything started, and then this Force mysticism gets added. I think the action in these two episodes, the action's been great this entire season, but I really like the action in these two episodes. Jay, I'm with you. I think the second episode was better than the first one. I'm gonna go. I wish I knew what my grades were for all the season's episodes from last season when we started doing this so that I could better orient things. But I'm going to go with a 94 for the occupation and a 96 for the Flight of the Defender. The whole battle with the Defender and the Interceptors was fantastic. There's so many things on that episode we didn't even touch. The kill switch and Governor Price's role, and if we had more time, we would. But there was a lot of great nuggets in this episode, and I was initially annoyed by the mysticism and the unanswered questions. My initial thought was, oh great, more stuff we don't know about. But then when I started considering when I started considering the possibilities, I became really intrigued. So again, 96, combined score of a 95 for the two of them. So okay. Well, that'll do it then. Thanks for listening to our reviews of Occupation and Flight of Discovery. Guys, do you have anything coming up that our Scoundrel should be aware of?
Yeah, I'm over on the Assembly Geeks Network with the Geek Supreme with Scott Murray, Jeff McGee, and Regina Davis, and we have a little fun show that takes a little game show element to some geek news and discussion points. So go check us out. Drops every Tuesday.
Jay?
That is a fun show. I really enjoy listening to you guys on that one. I'm learning a lot, things that I didn't know before. So you can always find me on Coffee with Kenobi. My blogs are there on the 18th of every other month, as well as my Core Worlds Couture fashion review blog. And I am also going to be appearing on an episode of Rebels Reactions. On Coffee with Kenobi here in a couple weeks as well. So I get to do Rebels again. So that's awesome.
All right, and then you can always find my comic book reviews, which are largely focused on Star Wars. Occasionally, I'll throw in some other Marvel hero, and those are on retrozap.com under the articles, comics commentary section. And of course, you can find myself and my wife as we cover each episode of Discovery. That is on our Warp Trails podcast. And with the mid-season break coming up, we are talking about dropping a few bonus episodes. We haven't decided exactly what that's going to be, but we're looking at possibly the animated series or some of the episodes of the original series that tie into some things going on in Discovery.
That's cool.
So if you want to find us on social media, we are at SQPod on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook, you can find us at facebook.com/SQPod. You can email the show at sqpod@retrozap.com. You can follow Darth Taxus on Twitter at Darth Taxus. I am at DJKVER2, and Jay is at Joyce Krebs. Speaking of RetroZap, we are a proud part of the retrozap.com podcast network. The network currently features 21 shows. And if you want to get them all you have to do is subscribe to the network feed. And that is going to do it for this Scoundrel Special Edition. We'll see you next week when we get to episode... Actually, I guess it'll be 2 weeks when we get to episode 42. But thanks again for listening to Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Until then, may the Force be with you.